which I thought might be in your minds. But having said that, I would rather at some point those questions come directly from you as well. Is that okay? Is that okay? So we'll kick it off, and midway we'll take a pause. And I hope you have some questions ready by then for this panel. Please ask them very tough questions. Don't let them off easy, right? You've seen the kind of experience they carry, the kind of organizations they work for. So everything that you watch on your Netflix and Amazon Primes on cybersecurity and cybercrime, these guys have done it in real life, okay? So you must ask them real tough questions, and questions that hopefully can benefit you in your journeys ahead as in your careers as technologists or as entrepreneurs. If you do not have any questions to ask, I will be asking you questions. Is that okay? All right, great. So with that, we're going to kick off. And Kamna's already done the introduction, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. But the first thing that I had on my mind is, related to the field of cybersecurity and how it has evolved. And I thought I'd direct that first question to Shalini. Shalini, as you know, she's had a very long stint, almost 20 years, at Sopra Steria. For those of you who may not be aware, Sopra Steria is a very large Europe-based, in fact Paris-based, digital services company, right? So Shalini, my question to you is, how has the field of cybersecurity evolved over the years? You've seen, especially in your journey over the past 20 odd years. And over this evolution, how have the considerations changed, both for organizations and for individual users of technology?
That's a very apt question. I mean, if you look back, the first cyber attack, which would be called a cyber attack, occurred sometime in the 70s. They had the concept of an ARPANET, but because the systems were not too connected together, the collateral damage was very less, and it was not considered to be a major incident. It was treated like a small blip, and work carried on as usual. But the government started thinking of how to solve this problem. And the first serious attempt at securing systems I could trace back was when US set up the Department of Homeland Security, which sort of had a focus to secure, and they've always been ahead of the curve. US is completely digital. So they said, look, this department's going to look at securing all our data, all our systems, and ensuring, that nothing's stolen, nothing's altered, and the systems are available as they and behave as they are intended to. That's from a government perspective. Now, typically, technologies, when they evolve, they bring their own problems, which could be because of the inadvertent usage of technology, or, because people exploit these technologies to look for vulnerabilities, But just as they create a problem, technology evolves to solve that problem. So open source technologies is another area that, and there are these open forums in tech which started looking maybe 2 decades back at securing software development systems. So you might have heard of something called OWASP, right? Open Worldwide Application Security Project. This was set up something like 20 years or 22 years back, which came up with guidelines on how to develop software that is secure. And that's also evolved. They come up with evolutionary new guidelines. In today's world, if you look at it, they would have a lot of guidelines on how to secure AI systems, IoT systems with edge computing, where data could be on-site. Computation is taking nearer to the source of data, that needs to be secured as well. So that's the evolution from a software perspective. The third aspect is the regulation. Regulation evolved as well. You might have heard of GDPR, EU has been a bit ahead of US when it comes to regulation. US is supposed to be a free economy. You do you, I do me, and we live in an ideal world, right? EU is more, sort of obsessed with securing their data, securing their systems. So they have a concept of GAIX, which means all the EU data stays within EU. There's a lot of, insourcing which happened during the pandemic as well. But they came up with GDPR, which is primarily saying that the organizations need to ensure that when they are handling private and personal data, they ensure privacy. That's not valid only for the EU-based companies, but also the companies that deliver into EU. So that means pure players or companies in India which are delivering projects for EU also need to adhere to this compliance. Okay. The latest trends that have come up besides the regulation part, and that came because of the COVID, because so much happening online, everything moving to digital at a scale which was unprecedented. The multi-factor authentication, the cryptos, the VPNs, they all exposed vulnerabilities. So people started using AI, and that became their front line of defense. So they have systems which actually are able to have threat perception models, are able to catch the models at the onset and have and recommend a response as is. So a new term that's come up is zero trust, which means the basic premise is trust no one, verify everything. And whatever I put a request for, whatever is the minimum requirement as per my intent, that's the permission that I'll be given, and that's the access I'll be given. So things have been evolving from a cybersecurity perspective also, but we'll be discussing it as we go. I hope they got the context.
Perfect. Now, thank you, Shalini, from ARPANET to AI, the entire journey you covered for us. The next question I'm going to direct to Shambhavi, and I think it'll be very relevant for all of you because you are aspiring professionals, and Shambhavi and her startup organization, the Intech, does something very interesting, which is in the field of cybersecurity. So they provide cybersecurity solutions, but importantly, they also work with acquiring and training cybersecurity talent, much like yourselves. So Shambhavi, my question to you is that we have a lot of young upcoming professionals in the crowd today, and what skills would you advise this group and many such young professionals who are interested in a career in cybersecurity, right? What would be the kind of skills they should go after? And other than those, what else can they do to have a successful long career in this particular field?
Understood. Thank you. So, if I talk about cybersecurity, it's not just one additional division in any organization. It's an industry altogether. So, everybody sitting out here, everybody wants to be a hacker in next 5 minutes. That can't happen, guys. So please snap out. You cannot be a hacker in next 5 minutes. That means if you have selected BTech cybersecurity, I think you have committed to something which is very niche in the industry. So you can't slack off, you have to hard work, as simple as that. Now if I talk about the kind of skill sets you should train yourself into, first of all try to understand in cybersecurity what division you want to fall in. Cybersecurity is a huge field, there are BAPT, there are pen testers, there's an incident response team, there's a risk assurance team, there's a GRC team, there are multiple teams within cybersecurity. First of all, understand your interest in which division of cybersecurity you are interested. That's the first thing to figure out. If you want to be a hacker, then opt for something of that kind. If you want to be an incident response team member, opt for something of that kind. And then try to train with the organizations who are practically doing those things. For example, let's say there's an ABC organization who is just giving you the theoretical educational knowledge. That won't work in cybersecurity because practical hands-on experience is pretty important in this industry. So try to figure out the organizations who are giving trainings parallelly, who are connected with the real-time business problems as well, so that they can train you in the right way, because they'll be able to bridge the gap for you. You cannot spend time and money in the companies where you'll not get an output from, and then you have to again wait for 6 months and then jump for another thing. So first take that decision and then offer it. Then do internships of 6 months, 1 year. As sir told that you guys have 1 year long internship plan. That's a brilliant thing, I guess. which a lot of cybersecurity companies, I mean, I hire for n number of security companies, and everybody is looking for long internships. So I think that's a brilliant thing. If you guys have this opportunity of 1 year internship, utilize it. And then after having an experience of 1 or 2 years, then opt for further certifications. Like, I mean, if you're freshers, आप लोग freshers हो, so don't just jump in for OSCP. Don't just jump in for CISM or CISA. It's not worth even your time or your money. First, do some foundational understanding, some foundational courses, then do some practical understanding in the market, and then opt as per your requirement in the industry. Then opt for the further, certifications which are required. So I think that's the right path for you guys. And yeah, there's no slacking off that I can't, emphasize on this much. There is no slacking off in security. That's a very niche field. And it's a 24/7 work, guys. If your client has been detected with a threat in the midnight, the IR team will have to respond at that point in time, no matter what. So that is how everybody would agree with that part. So yeah, that is how I think you should start planning and start executing if you want to build a long-term career in cybersecurity and be in top 1% or 2% of the industry. So yeah, I think that's the solution.
No, thank you so much. And you all know where to send your CVs to now, right? Okay. No, thank you, Shambhavi. Now, from looking at what's a good career path to actually what happens on the implementation side, on ground, in organizations, I want to direct the question to Rahul. Rahul, you've worked in a number of setups which have been both entrepreneurial as well as enterprise, right? In fact, you've set up the cyber services practices at your current organization, which is Matson Kumar. Now, you're of course working very closely with the BPO industry, and it's one of the most challenging industries when it comes to data protection, information protection, cybersecurity. Specifically, what does the BPO industry do or need to protect itself? It has a lot of sensitive data. How does it ensure business continuity? How does it comply with regulatory requirements? And how do you actually maintain the customer trust while doing all of this?
Thank you, Ashish. So, obviously, cybersecurity is actually essential for any industry. It is a core part of industry, any business now. When we talk about BPO industry, we deal with a lot of data, and a lot of data which belongs to multiple customers globally, different kind of regulation, different kind of standards. And every customer obviously has different kind of data, different kind of expectation out of us. And we get additional responsibility of securing not only our data, it has to be, we have to secure customers' data, the client data also. So we have to ensure, and I think that applies to all BPO companies, we have to ensure that the standard we deploy in the organization, it actually complies to all the global standards. It follows various best practices from across the globe, the standards like ISO, PCI and other standards. And we are able to, and it obviously creates a lot of complexity, like because you're dealing with multiple different kind of clients globally. So you have to simplify for your own teams, because you manage data. You have to create a standard which is simple to manage and still is able to get to all the requirements. For example, in our case, we follow ISO. We are ISO certified. We follow PCI guidelines. We follow GDPR. And what we have created into our organization, we have created a standard which follows all the guidelines from ISO, PCI, GDPR, and we have created our own guidelines which we follow. Our practices, our policies are created basis that. On infrastructure basis, it's a standard. Like we have to follow the best possible the leaders of the domain. So we take devices and solutions from all the leaders and to ensure the security at all the doors.
Right.
Actually patch. Any organization has to patch. All the open doors you have to patch. That's how you will be able to manage manage security. So first is the standard you create for the organization, then the devices, then at the infrastructure level, the firewalls, the SIEM solutions, the endpoint solutions, everything has to be work in sync and has to be best in class. Now, starting from the pandemic times, work from home also has become very common. Right? So, and we have our workforce across India working from home. So obviously we are providing one gate, one door to every employee to reach to the core network, and that door has to be secure. So secure VPN structure has been created. So all these elements, it's a complex thing, and all these elements have to be passed, created, and standards have to be followed. When we talk about the next part was business continuity. Business continuity is definitely essential. It's a component. Like if you lose business, if your network is down, maybe because of some security attack or because of any kind of failure, you are losing revenue. You are losing trust of your client.
Absolutely.
If it is impacting you, it is indirectly impacting your clients also. You are losing revenue. Your client is also losing revenue. So you have to ensure that business continuity plans are created, are regularly tested. So we do that every year. So regular testing every year for each of the business, because each business process and the underlying network and infrastructure for that process is different. So we have to test it for each of the processes across our business. And anything I missed?
No, I think you covered most of it. Anything specifically to the trust, the customer trust part of it?
Customer trust is obviously, so how we get it done, like we are, I mentioned we are PCI certified, we are ISO certified. So those certification actually bring in, you have to, for continuing certification, you have to get the external auditors. So
right.
We get audited annually. Every year we get external auditors. They study the entire system, the processes, the infrastructure, various kind of internal tests are done, like penetration testing, vulnerability. These are normal internal processes we have to conduct. These are part of our life. And all these things, all these reports at times when required are shared with clients also. We have process of internal audits. We do quarterly audit for all the system across the organization. So that is also done. So we have a specialized information security team which manages all these things.
Right.
We invite clients also at times to
Okay.
conduct audit on us. So the clients come, they send their auditors, they assess our systems, they based on their requirement, because every client's contract has different laid down information security requirements for
Correct.
us. So they conduct their audit, and these audits obviously when the results are seen, that kind of trust is developed. So and for any business to get the client trust, you have to ensure the client data is secure. When you ensure that, when you have the right processes, when you have right infrastructure, and when client sees that trust automatically builds and strengthens year on year.
Absolutely. No, thank you
That's
so
how
much.
I believe not only BPO industry, every industry have to,
Absolutely.
and you guys have to be prepared for that. You guys have to, because cybersecurity is a serious business. You guys have to work hard and decide, like Shampi said. First, in the first year, the internship or these kind of things will help. And then when you start understanding, choose your field. There are various multiple fields available within the cybersecurity. Choose your field and then specialize on those things.
No, thank you so much. So, setting standards, processes, demonstrating the security of the data, and I think opening up audits to clients themselves, I think that will definitely help build trust. So I have one more question to the panel, and the audience, then I'm going to hand it over to you if you'd like to ask any questions to the panel. And my next question is to Lieutenant Colonel Nishant Singh. You've had a long and distinguished service with the Indian Armed Forces, nearly 22 years. So first of all, thank you so much for your service. You have worked in a lot of critical sectors, the armed forces being one of them, and now you're contributing those skills also to critical areas in the civil sector, for example, airports, utilities, power. And as part of the GMR group, you're working with Gramax Cybersec. What I wanted to ask you was that in addition to the, I hope it's not echoing, in addition to the areas covered by the rest of the panel. Critical areas maybe require a little bit more, a little bit extra, because the considerations are perhaps not just financial or economical, but there can be other ramifications when it comes to cybersecurity for critical sectors. So my question to you was actually that what are those additional considerations, especially when dealing with sectors like government, defense, airports, power, and so on?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Ashish. Firstly, for the students who are engrossed in their mobile screens, I would just give you one bad and one good news that there is a shortfall of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals in the world. Good news or bad news? Good news. So now listen to this. Okay, another bad news is that last year itself, India has faced data breaches amounting to around 175 million rupees. Good news or bad news? But prospects for you to fill that gap. Okay, so now answering to the question of Ashish, so in my journey from defense to ministry to now corporate, and I'll try and keep my focus specifically on the critical sector. Firstly, just for the knowledge of those who are not aware what critical sectors are. So Government of India has given a definition of critical sector in IT Act 70, 2010 section 70, wherein it talks that any such infrastructure which is owned by government or government controlled agencies, and any attempt of attack or sabotage to such an infrastructure which is amongst these listed sectors. One is health, finance, education, transport, communication, banking. So if these are the sectors where there is any kind of attack, it will be taken as attack to national security. So that's how these sectors are defined under the category of critical sector. And there is an organization set up by Government of India called National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, NCIIPC, under NTRO. So that is mandated to protect the critical sector infrastructure. Now comes how to protect. So let's say, for example, airports. So airport is one classic example of critical infrastructure because it has amalgamation of plethora of technologies and systems in place. So in airports, it's not only the flight operations, but you have complete passenger functions also in the terminal, inside the terminal. So there are plethora of applications which converge on a platform to make sure that the journey of a passenger right from entering the airport and then landing to its destination is smooth and safe. Now in order to do so, there are various systems which are working in sync, and broadly you can divide them in IT infrastructure and OT infrastructure. When I say OT, it's operation technology, and most of you would be aware. Just a small example, imagine you are in the airport terminal, you are using the elevator, you are using the travelator, and some hacker has already hacked it. It moves with the sensor, which is networked, and if a hacker has been able to hack that sensor, and it increases the speed to dangerously high speed. So what could be the impact? It will be severe impact to human lives, and obviously a chaotic situation. Similarly, the gates which are automatically opening when you are departing or if you are trying to enter the terminal or moving to board the flight, if that can be malfunction because it was controlled with sensor and again operation technology network. If that is compromised and hacked, so you can understand the consequences. It will be a situation which can lead to damage to life and property, which is again a national security threat. So keeping that in mind, the security requirements of such an installation is very different when you compare to any other institution, because anything and any consequences may lead to threat to national security. So OT, I would rather like to emphasize more on OT side, because we all have been talking about security of IT infrastructure. OT is very specific, and any operation technology network, they work on something known as PLC, programmable logic circuits, and those are small, tiny, ubiquitous devices which are networked, and these devices do not have their inherent security systems within. So you need to have a security overlay. And so I would recommend to all of you, if you find it interesting, you must first study about OT and IoT for that matter. And there's a huge lot of security requirements in this field. We have vulnerability assessment and penetration testing for IT and OT separately. So there is a huge requirement there, and not only the OT VAPT, but also there is a requirement of developing a complete monitoring framework wherein you get a visibility into real-time functioning and security alerts of such a system. That is another field where still there is a paucity of skill set, and there are huge opportunities out there. And other field wherein we go a little beyond the technical and come into the governance side. So you have a lot of regulations which will be very much mandatory for the people who are running such an organization to follow and comply with. And and any such, when you have a regulatory compliance requirement, there comes a requirement of risk assessment. So you need to, this is another field, risk assessment, wherein you go into a very holistic approach, and you have to carry out a risk assessment covering the three essential ingredients of cybersecurity ecosystem, which is people, process, and technology. People being the weakest link out there, because as per the survey and statistics, more than 85% of breaches, they start with a phishing mail. That is the statistics latest. So you can imagine it's the person sitting on that machine, if he is not aware of the security guidelines, and his one innocuous looking click may be catastrophic to the whole atmosphere, whole environment and ecosystem. So that's the seriousness of such an ecosystem. And so we'll talk more about it in the subsequent part of the session. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Nishant Singh. So I hope this is interesting or useful for all of you in the audience as well, and I hope you're jotting down notes as what could be possible areas of interest that you can follow up on. I will turn the mic over to you now, and I think we have a mic in the audience, do we? Are there any questions that somebody would like to ask the panel over here? Okay, we have the gentleman in the blue t-shirt. If you have a mic, it'll be really nice. Akash, can we get a mic up to him, please? Yeah, there's a mic over here we can use.